they're traveling to Vrindavan, and it's an ecstatic occasion, a festival of joy, as Prabhupada describes during one Ratha-Yatra discourse. Festival of joy. And they are specially taken by their most intimate devotees, the Brajavasis. So this whole Ratha-Yatra festival, its origin is that Krishna, along with Balaram and Subhadra, had come to Kurukshetra from Dwaraka. When Krishna was ruling in Dwaraka, there was a solar eclipse. And solar eclipse happens practically every year or once in 2 years. But this solar eclipse was the kind that is a very, very, very rare solar eclipse. Once in a day of Brahma, once in a kalpa. So they wanted to take advantage of observing the solar eclipse in a very holy and sacred place. So Krishna and the Dwarkavasis, they decided to go to Kurukshetra, very, very sacred place. Kurukshetra is glorified in the scriptures as a very, very holy and sacred place. Prabhupada gives some of the reasons why Kurukshetra is called Dharmakshetra. In the Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, first verse purport, he gives 5 reasons. So it is even significant for the demigods in the heaven to come to Kurukshetra to perform religious rituals. So Krishna decided to go to Kurukshetra. And when the Brajavasis heard Krishna is coming to Kurukshetra, let's all go to Kurukshetra to meet Krishna. So the Brajavasis also came to Kurukshetra. But in Kurukshetra, Krishna was accompanied by his whole military commander, his ministers, his entire royal associates. So the Brajavasis are not used to seeing Krishna that way. They only know Krishna as a cowherd boy, and he goes cowherding with his cowherd boy friends, and he carries a cowherding stick, and he's got his flute, and he's playing with the cowherd boys, and they have very free and easy access to Krishna in Vrindavan. Now, if somebody wants to see Krishna in Kurukshetra, because he has come from Dwaraka along with his retinue, so there are so many encampments, it's called military security. So they're across so many security gates, and then inside they'll be questioned by somebody, whom do you want to meet, why do you want to meet, what is the purpose of the meeting, etc., etc., all the formalities. So Krishna decided, he knew that the Brajavasis will be very uncomfortable trying to meet me inside my camp. So Krishna himself came out. And as soon as he went to the place where Brajavasis had camped, and as soon as the Brajavasis saw Krishna and Vasudeva and Devaki, because they are very, very closely related, and also Krishna is the common object of affection for both of them, so they were very, very happy to see each other, and they embraced, and there were tears of joy, exchanges between them. Then one by one, everybody was trying to meet Krishna. Krishna is the center of attraction for everyone, especially the Brajavasis. So when Yashoda came to meet Devaki and Rohini, then their talk was about Krishna only. So first they inquired about Krishna, and they met Krishna, Yashoda, and other elderly gopis along with Yashoda. But when Yashoda started talking with Devaki and Rohini, that is when Krishna took the chance to slip away from Yashoda and the other elderly gopis, and he went to a secluded place to meet the younger gopis, Radharani, headed by Radharani. So the gopis, particularly, they were always attached to Krishna, even when Krishna was in Vrindavan. The gopis had no attachment for anybody else other than Krishna. Krishna was their life and soul. Even though they had their families, they had their other relatives, they had their neighbors, they were not interested in anyone except Krishna. So the gopis, they were very much feeling the separation from Krishna when Krishna left Vrindavan and went to Mathura and later on to Dwarka. They were simply waiting, when is Krishna going to come back? Of course, the Bhagavatam says Krishna never returned to Vrindavan. So he promised that in 2-3 days he will come back. But he never returned. Never returned to Vrindavan. So the gopis were simply waiting. So you can imagine how they felt when they saw Krishna face to face after a long time, a long period of separation. So gopis were extremely joyful to see Krishna. But they were not very happy to see Krishna as the king of Dwarka. He was having his whole royal attire. So they were not very satisfied seeing Krishna that way. So then Krishna began to speak to the gopis that, are you very angry with me because I never came back to Vrindavan? I have been very ungrateful to all of you. So then Krishna explained his reason why he couldn't come back. He said, as soon as I came to Mathura, I saw the condition was very bad. Demons headed by Kamsa, they were simply torturing the pious people. So first he had to deal with that, and after that attacked by Jarasandha, and after that he became involved in giving protection to the kidnapped princesses like Bhaumasura. Like that, one after another, Krishna became busy dealing with so many of those type of matters. So he could never get time to actually take a break and visit the Brajavasis. So Krishna said, you are anyway engaged always in thinking of me. And that is the best way to prepare oneself to get ultimate liberation and go back to Godhead. Simply by thinking of me, remembering my form, remembering my activities, remembering my qualities. Anyone in any part of the world can actually very easily get ultimate liberation and go back. So in the gopis, they prayed to Krishna that even though you have not come to Vrindavan still, we have never forgotten you. So Krishna asked, have you forgotten me because I have been very ungrateful and I never came back to Vrindavan? He said, no, we have never forgotten you. Not even one moment. So we just pray that you always remain within the core of our heart and you always keep us in Krishna consciousness. May we never forget you, even for one moment. May we always sing your glories, remember your beautiful form, your activities, your qualities, wonderful qualities. Like that, the gopis prayed for a benediction. Then, this is all explained by Prabhupada in the Krishna book, when the gopis met Krishna. Then one thing Prabhupada says that Krishna would have offered the gopis, why don't you come with me to Dwaraka? The Prabhupada says, the gopis don't want to go to Dwaraka. Why? Because they want Krishna's association or company in Vrindavan. Especially Radharani. She wants to take Krishna back to Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan, she wants Krishna's company. So the gopis prefer to actually be in Vrindavan and all the time think of Krishna, his places of pastimes, his interaction with the different devotees, his reciprocation. They want that rather than royal comforts or royal opulence of Dwaraka. They are not at all interested in that majesty and royal opulence of Dwaraka. So this Prabhupada points out is the main difference between Dwaraka and Vrindavan. In Dwaraka, the devotees worship Krishna in Aishwarya Bhava. In Vrindavan, the devotees worship Krishna in Madhurya Bhava. Both are valid ways the scriptures describe how one can worship Krishna. But Krishna relishes more the worship in the mood of the Brajavasis. So, Lord Chaitanya explains that Jagannath's Ratha-Yatra actually is the emotional process of the gopis trying to take Krishna back to Vrindavan from Dwaraka. This is what the Ratha-Yatra means for Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So symbolically, Jagannath, Baldev and Subhadra, who are Krishna, Balaram and Subhadra, they are taken from Sri Mandir to Gundicha Mandir. Sri Mandir is where the Lord is worshipped in opulence, in Aishwarya Bhava, for practically the whole year. But 1 week, Krishna leaves that Aishwarya mood and travels to Gundicha Mandir. Gundicha Mandir is like filled with flower gardens and orchards of different fruits. So it is a more rural setting like Vrindavan. And in a very simple rural setting, Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra are served by his devotees in the Vrindavan mood in Gundicha temple for 1 week. So it is an ecstatic occasion for the Brajavasis to take Krishna from Dwarka to Vrindavan. So Jagannath likes to travel once a year in this Ratha-Yatra. And who are the devotees who are engaged in taking Krishna in the chariot? Who's pulling the chariot? The Brajavasis. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was present in Puri, 18 years, he was participating in that Ratha-Yatra by his ecstatic Sankirtan, Kirtan accompanied with dancing. So there is a whole chapter in the Chaitanya Charitamrita describing 13th chapter of the Madhya Leela, the ecstatic dancing of Lord Chaitanya at the Ratha-Yatra. So the first verse, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the expert who is describing these wonderful pastimes of Chaitanya, he says, "May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who danced in front of the car of Sri Jagannath, be all glorified. By seeing his dancing, not only was the whole universe held in wonder, but Lord Jagannath himself became very much astonished." Jagannath himself was astonished to see Chaitanya's dancing in front of the Ratha. So it's a very long description. We don't have time, but I'll just mention some highlights about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing. So briefly I will tell you that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the previous day, he did Gundicha Mandir Marjana, and that's another chapter, 12th chapter, the cleansing of the Gundicha temple. Lot of lessons to be learned for us from this pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, cleansing the Gundicha temple along with his associates. So the next day, they got up very early, and even when it was dark, even before sunrise, now it's summer, sunrise is very early, but even before sunrise, in the darkness of the early morning hours, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates immediately took their bath, cleansed themselves, dressed themselves with nice cloth, and came for attending the Ratha-Yatra. So the first thing is that Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra are brought to the Ratha by their servitors called Daitas. So carrying Jagannath is not at all easy. Huge deity and very, very heavy. So these Daitas who carry Jagannath, they're described as very, very strongly built, and they are as powerful as drunken elephants. That's a description here. They manually carried Lord Jagannath from the throne to the car. From the temple, they brought him to the Ratha. And while Jagannath was being carried, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was chanting, "Manima, Manima." So, Prabhupada says in the purport, the word Manima is used to address a respectable person in Orissa. Lord Jagannath was being respectfully addressed by Sri Chaitanya in this way. Then, after Jagannath was placed on the chariot and devotees started pulling the chariot, Jagannath appeared very, very majestic. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered prayers to Jagannath before he began his Sankirtan. So, some of the prayers I'll try to read. Let us recite those prayers. Offering obeisances to the Lord with folded hand, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu raised his face toward Jagannath and prayed as follows. The first prayer, I think all of you know. Namo Brahmanya Devaya. All of you repeat after me. Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha. Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya. Govindaya Namo Namaha. This prayer we are all familiar. The next prayer Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered, please repeat after me. This prayer is from Mukunda Mala Stotra, written by Kulashekara Alvar. Jayati Jayati Devo Devaki Nandanoso Jayati Jayati Krishno Vrishni Vamsha Pradipaha Jayati Jayati Megha Shamala Komalango Jayati Jayati Prithvi Bharanasho Mukundaha. The next prayer he offered is from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a prayer offered by Shukadeva Goswami in the Bhagavatam. We are concluding the 10th canto. Jayati Jayati Nivaso. I'm sorry. Jayati Jana Nivaso Devaki Janmavado Yaduvara Parishad Svaihi Dorbhir Asyan Adharmam Sthirachara Vrijinagnaha Susmita Shri Mukhena Vrajapura Vanitanam Vardhayan Kamadevam. The meaning of this verse is, I'll just read the meaning. Lord Sri Krishna is he who is known as Jananivasa, the ultimate resort of all living entities, and who is also known as Devaki Nandana or Yashoda Nandana, the son of Devaki and Yashoda. He is the guide of the Yadu dynasty, and with his mighty arms he kills everything inauspicious as well as every man who is inauspicious. By his presence he destroys all things inauspicious for all living entities, moving and inert. His blissful smiling face always increases the lusty desires of the gopis of Vrindavan. May he be all glorious and happy. That's the mood of Jagannath. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is offering this prayer. The next prayer Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offers is actually recorded in Padyavali by Srila Rupa Goswami. Please repeat this prayer. Naham vipro nachana rapati Napi vaishyo na shudro Naham varni nacha grihapati. Okay, it is in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, 13th chapter, text number 79. You can follow the screen also. Anyway, I will lead the chanting, it'll be better. Kintu prodyan nikhila paramananda purnamritabdher gopi bhartuhu Padakamalayor Dasa Dasanu Dasaha. This meaning of this prayer is, I am not a Brahmana, I am not a Kshatriya, I am not a Vaishya or a Shudra, nor am I a Brahmachari, a householder, a Vanaprastha or a Sannyasi. I identify myself only as the servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis. He is like an ocean of nectar, and he is the cause of universal transcendental bliss. He is always existing with brilliance. The next prayer. The next prayer is after many verses. Anyway, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered his prayers, and then after offering the prayers, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to dance to the kirtan singing of the devotees. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced and jumped high, roaring like thunder and moving in a circle like a wheel, he appeared like a circling firebrand. Wherever Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stepped while dancing, the whole earth with its hills and seas appeared to tilt. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced, he displayed various blissful transcendental changes in his body. Sometimes he appeared as though stunned. Sometimes the hairs of his body stood on end. Sometimes he perspired, cried, trembled, and changed color. And sometimes he exhibited symptoms of helplessness, pride, exuberance, and humility. These are all symptoms of ecstasy. What is important to note is that if we participate in Sankirtana, Harinam Sankirtana, then if we become absorbed completely in hearing, chanting, and dancing, then we can also experience the same transformations by becoming ecstatic. This is the gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to everyone. It doesn't require any specific qualification, except we have to be in the surrendered mood. We have to be in the surrendered mood. So that surrender is made very easy by this process of Sankirtana by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then it is described, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell down with a crash while dancing, he would roll on the ground. Rolling on the ground is another symptom of ecstasy. Okay. At such times it appeared that a golden mountain was rolling on the ground, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was golden complexion, Suvarna Varna. Nityananda Prabhu would stretch out his two hands and try to catch the Lord when he was running here and there. Advaita Acharya would walk behind the Lord and loudly shout, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, again and again. Everybody else also became ecstatic when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing. Just to check the crowd from coming too close near to the Lord, the devotees formed three circles. The first circle was guided by Nityananda Prabhu, who is Balaram himself, the possessor of great strength. All the devotees headed by Kashishwara and Govinda linked hands and formed a second circle around the Lord. Maharaj Pratap Rudra and his personal assistants formed a third circle around the two inner circles. Just to check the crowd from coming too near, people became very ecstatic themselves. So they want to come near and watch Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from close quarters. But the three circles of these devotees would prevent the crowd from coming too close. With his hands on the shoulders of Hari Chandana, King Prataprudra could see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dancing, and the king felt great ecstasy. While the king beheld the dancing, Srivas Thakur, standing in front of him, became ecstatic as he saw the dancing of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Seeing Srivas Thakur standing before the king, Hari Chandana touched Srivas with his hand and requested him to step aside. Absorbed in watching Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dance, Srivas Thakur could not understand why he was being touched and pushed. After he was pushed again and again, he became angry. Srivas Thakur slapped Harichandana to stop him from pushing him. In turn, this made Harichandana angry. See what all is happening during the Ratha-Yatra. As the angered Harichandana was about to speak to Srivas Thakur, Pratap Rudra Maharaj personally stopped him. Pratap Rudra said, "You are very fortunate, for you have been graced by the touch of Srivas Thakur. I am not so fortunate. You should feel obliged to him." Everyone is astonished by the dancing of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and even Lord Jagannath became extremely happy to see him. The car came to a complete standstill and remained immobile. Why? While Lord Jagannath with unblinking eyes watched the dancing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The goddess of fortune Subhadra and Lord Balaram both felt great happiness and ecstasy within their hearts. Indeed, they were seen smiling at the dancing. Now, for understanding this point, how could Balaram and Subhadra also see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dancing in front of Jagannath's chariot? Formerly, the three chariots used to be next to each other on a much wider road. In fact, there was no road those days, 500 years back. There was a huge open space, maybe 3 or 4 times wider than what it is. Even now, that road on which the Ratha travels, what's it called? No, not Grand Road, the Oriya name. Badadanda. That is very wide actually compared to other roads in Puri or any other city. But that was 4 times as big, as wide those days. So the 3 chariots used to be next to each other and pulled simultaneously. That's the way the chariots were actually positioned. So from their chariot, Balaram and Subhadra could also see, by looking on the side, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dancing in front of Jagannath. Okay? So present day arrangement is not the arrangement. Present day arrangement, Balaram's chariot is in front and there are a whole lot of people pulling that chariot. Then there are a lot of people behind Balaram's chariot pulling Subhadra's chariot, sea of people. And then behind that is, last is Jagannath's chariot. So in this arrangement, Balaram and Subhadra cannot see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or anybody dancing in front of Jagannath's chariot. That's impossible. But those days the arrangement was different. If you see the picture here, it is drawn by one of the devotees, disciples of Prabhupada, that shows the Ratha-Yatra, the 3 chariots next to each other. So that's how the goddess of fortune, Subhadra, and Lord Balaram both felt great happiness and ecstasy within their hearts. Indeed, they were seen smiling at the dancing. And the description is that Jagannath would not move just to stop and see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dancing. So, after some time, the devotees try to pull the chariot, and they're seeing the chariot is not moving at all. So it's explained by Prabhupada, Jagannath moves according to his will, not according to the pulling of the chariot. So Jagannath did not want to move. That's why. And then when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to his external consciousness, he was absorbed in dancing and the kirtan. When he came to his external consciousness, he saw the chariot is not moving. And then Prataprudra brought big elephants, so many elephants to move the chariot. Those elephants also could not move. Then everybody is perplexed. What is happening? How to make the chariot? Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went behind the chariot and just with his head he touched the chariot. Immediately the chariot started rolling. Everybody became ecstatic. Haribol, Haribol. And they pulled the chariot. So, Jagannath would not move because he wanted to enjoy, relish Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic dance. So that's why it is said here in the beginning that by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, by his dancing, by seeing his dancing, not only was the whole universe held in wonder, all the demigods were watching from the heavenly planets, but Lord Jagannath himself became very much astonished by this dancing. So please read this chapter. I don't have time to read. That it describes what are all the wonderful ecstasies that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and not only Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even his associates displayed during the kirtan they performed in front of Jagannath's chariot by the Ratha-Yatra. Jagannath Ratha-Yatra Mahotsav ki jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki. Nitai Gaur Premanand.